What's up, everybody? Welcome to another Word on a Wednesday. My name's Chase, lead pastor here at River's Edge, and what we've been trying to do is share a word of encouragement from the Word of God with you every single week, just to help give you hope and encouragement in the middle of all that is going on in our world. So I get a chance to share with you another word today. This comes from my devotional I was reading yesterday. Basically, I just try to read a little bit of the Gospels every single day, Matthew, Mark, Luke, or John, just to learn more about Jesus every single day and to just learn from who he is and what he said and what he did. And I read a story I've read hundreds of times, preached on it before, and if you've ever know anything about Church of Jesus, you probably have heard this story, the story where Peter gets out of the boat and walks on water. What? It's crazy, but you should read it. It's a really good story. But for some reason, two things kind of stuck out to me differently. And were encouragement to me that I think can be an encouragement to you in light of what we're dealing with today. So it says this, so Jesus and the disciples just were doing some ministering to people, feeding people, taking care of people, and it came to the end of the day, and he says, disciples, get in the boat, go across the other side of the lake, I'll meet you there, right? And so the disciples get in the boat, go across the other lake, but a storm comes, basically. It says this, it says, meanwhile, this is Matthew chapter 14 in verse 24, meanwhile, the disciples were in trouble far away from land, for a strong wind had risen, and they were fighting heavy waves. Strong wind, heavy waves start coming. And then it says about 3 o'clock in the morning, Jesus starts walking on the water towards them. And they see someone walking on the water, and they're like, it's a ghost. And Jesus is like, hey, don't be afraid, it's not a ghost. And they were afraid. And then Peter said, well, if it's you, Jesus, tell me to come to you, and I'll come out and walk on the water with you. And so it says that Jesus said, okay, come. And so Peter went over the side of the boat, walked on the water towards Jesus, but when he saw the strong wind and the waves, he was terrified and began to sink. Save me, Lord, he shouted. Well, Jesus immediately reached out, grabbed him, and said, you have so little faith, Jesus said. Why did you doubt me? Two things that I think can bring encouragement this week. Number one, I don't know why it never really struck me before, or maybe I'd always thought the timeline was different, but this stuck out to me this time more than it ever has before, is that it was the middle of what I'll call a storm when Peter stepped out of the boat. And I don't know, maybe I had the timeline different where I thought that Jesus was walking on water and then he calmed the storm and then Peter stepped out of the boat. But it never stuck out to me, never really hit me this way. But they were in trouble, strong winds and fighting heavy waves. And that's when Peter says, hey, let me come to you, Jesus. Like, they were in the middle of craziness. There was a mess going on. There was a situation that was not very fun and exciting. They were in trouble far away from the land. And Peter said, well, let me walk out on water. And he got to do something really incredible because he had the faith to take a step out of his comfort zone, out of the protective boat, and step out into the unknown, into the water, and do something that no one else has been able to do besides him and Jesus. I mean, that's just an incredible opportunity that he had. But the opportunity presented itself in the middle of a storm. Heavy waves, strong winds, problems, situation wasn't great, and that's when he stepped out. And I start thinking about the world that we're living in, the COVID situation, health crisis is going on, financial struggles that people are having, the division in our country, all that's going on. I would say that we're probably in the middle of a time where I would say it's kind of like strong waves and heavy winds, heavy waves and strong winds. I think we're in the middle of a strange season. And just to me, it was just that reminder of like, are you willing, Chase, to step out in faith in the middle of even this? Or does everything have to be right before you'll take a step of faith? And I don't know what you're dealing with right now. I don't know how that can encourage you. I'm not even going to tell you, but I'm just saying maybe God's calling you to say, hey, in the middle of all of this, it's time to take a step of faith. It's time to put your feet where your faith are and take a step out of the boat, out of your comfort zone, and do that thing that I've been asking you to do, and just come. But the other thing that stuck out to me that I think would apply even more to everybody, because maybe you're not dealing with that question of should I step out of the boat in faith or not, but should apply to everyone. And that's this part. So Peter walks on water towards Jesus, but when he saw the strong wind and the waves, he was terrified and began to sink. When Peter took his eyes off Jesus, he started to sink. When he started to look around him at everything that was going on, he started to sink. When he was looking at Jesus and walking on water, we don't know how long, how many steps he took, but when his focus was on Jesus, it did not matter that there were strong winds and heavy waves because he had fixed his focus on Jesus in the middle of it. And almost like he had tunnel vision where he said, if I focus on Jesus and what Jesus wants for me and what Jesus calls for me and what Jesus can give to me, if my focus is on him in the middle of a storm, I can walk on water. Folks, I am telling you right now, everyone needs to hear that in the middle of the COVID situation, the financial struggle you're having, the stress that you're dealing with, the mental and spiritual and emotional struggle that you're having in the middle of this, deciding kids' school situations, deciding who to vote for and who not to vote for and what our country's going to look like. In the middle of this mess, what are you focusing on? Are you looking around at all of that? If you are, you're going to start finding that you might be sinking in the middle of this. Or are you fixing your focus on Jesus? Looking to him, staying focused on him, staying central to what he's called us to, which is to share his love with people. Is your focus on Jesus? I believe if our focus is fixed on Jesus, we will be able to take steps of faith, and we will see that even in the middle of this mess, if we're focused in the right place, we can get through it, and we might even be able to do some extremely incredible things. That this crazy storm might present an opportunity for us to take a step of faith and do something awesome. So my encouragement to you, stay focused on Jesus in the middle of this, and watch how everything else will settle. It'll be okay. Jesus is still going to be the King of the world and the Lord of your life, even at the end of all this. So this is a little bit longer, but I just wanted to share that with you today. Thanks for paying attention. Thanks for listening. I hope you were encouraged by this, and we'll see you guys next week. See ya.